Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to Hash Church episode 155. Wow. I was we were going to make this one. Let me tell you, we're in the middle of Toronto, literally 6 minutes ago. Somehow I managed to make it. I'm here. Let's hope for the best when it comes to the connection. I'm wonderful the connection is going to be today. But we're going to try our best, everyone. I'm going to send out the links here soon, and let's scenario. Maybe I have a bad connection, but better stop that for a second. Hash church link. And all right, we are live. Sounds good. Well, good to hear, guys. I'm really thought this was good in 3 years, because next week is our 3-year anniversary. I almost thought, yeah, it's going to be choppy. It's going to be choppy. Today's going to be very choppy. So I would say don't tell me how choppy it is, because if I see too many people posting how choppy it is, I'll stop and I'll end church. So if you guys want church to go into a little bit of choppy, let's try our best. Good morning, Etienne.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, you know, I'm on a computer that's guaranteed going to fail me. I barely made the start of Hash Church today. I thought I was hoping Natasha today, but she's actually getting you as a moderator, Etienne, and helping out sometimes when I'm just absolutely unable to pull it.
I can do that.
I somehow pulled a scenario. I don't get to be a part of the conversation today.
Good morning, Sam.
Good morning.
Or good evening. How are things
Excellent.
in the Amsterdam?
Well, it was actually quite a sunny day today.
Nice. Good to have good weather in the Amsterdam. So where are you in the world there, Skunk? I mean, Bubble Man.
Good morning, guys.
Morning, John.
Hanging out on Victoria, hanging on the island today, and just going to sign in and say good morning. How is Karma Cup going, Mark?
The Karma Cup is going very well. It was a busy day. Many people I heard had done $10,000 and $15,000 in sales, us included. Lots of great people and lots of happy. However, this morning I was out front waiting for my Uber to come pick up to go do Hash Church, and I saw Josh, and he was coming out just because police, and I was like, "What? You guys are worried about the police?" And he said, "Yeah, they just announced yesterday that the police have $240 million new dollars to spend illegal cannabis things in the city of Toronto." So there was about 5 or 6 cops up the road, but I think it harassing the Karma Cup. I think this is more about the business of dispensaries versus somehow controlled. You know, I guess Ontario announced the doing like LC, like liquor type stores, but for cannabis, and they're gonna do like 150 of the province, anything like this. As you can imagine, the majority of people were not overly happy about it all. They care if they open 150 shops to sell weed to people. What you care about is being able to have a dispensary, 150 new access points, because hey, the more the merrier, in my opinion. There is not enough places to buy great weed. Hopefully out of these 150 there might be Where are you at, Johnny B?
I'm on the Malahat right now, actually. Yeah, we're just kind of hanging out here and
all right,
going over the stuff. And it's interesting to say what you're saying there, Mark, and what they're going to be doing. And I remember I listened to the whole like 45-minute kind of little presentation they were talking about on the crackdowns and how they're going to start implementing a whole new system. When they say by 2020 they'll have 20 stores available within the first year or two. I don't know how they plan on putting in 150 stores overnight and how that platform is going to happen. I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, how many stores are going to go? We don't know.
Well, that's an interesting way that they're going about it. It seems almost like they're going about it the route of, in the States here, we have with things called ABC stores, which before you had individual stores selling liquor, they have what's basically a state store, which is basically owned by the state, that is, only holds, state hours, something like 9 till like 7 or something like that, where it's just not only place you could buy liquor back in the day until they actually had distribution and things like that. In fact, it just changed in Pennsylvania. You couldn't buy a 6-pack of beer. I'm just giving, just a causality sort of situation there. You couldn't buy beer on a Sunday in a store. You would have to go to a bar to actually get that. And you'd pay for an individual beer if you bought a 6-pack. You wouldn't buy, just a regular 6-pack that you buy currently in a store anywhere. So I see why they're doing something like that. That's a tried and true model that has worked with alcohol. So I can see why they're pushing in that realm. But what negative effects is it going to? What immediate negative things do you see?
The negative? Well, I guess the negative effects that we're looking at right now are going to be the people like that our friends that have opened up dispensaries have spent their lives fighting for this plant and then educating the bud tenders and the knowledge behind the people that they're helping, the patients that are being helped at the dispensaries have when they've established relationships with the bud tenders and stuff like that. All of these patients that have been relying on these compassion clubs who are compassion, who do help, who do give back, who do fund other events, who do support other people in the industry who do give back. I think they don't do that like the liquor stores. It's not like they give away free alcohol or they support groups or they put on big events and stuff like that. It's a different industry where the cannabis industry is more supportive, where an alcohol industry is more about money.
No, I was just looking at comparative industries and how they're actually. I don't want to. Please, no one take this as anyway as alcohol in the same line as cannabis. I'm just looking at distribution models and how they've gone. And I agree, it's very frustrating that they've taken this large, overwhelming model, which of course is better for the consumers. However, it leaves out all those that have been spending decades busting their ass and risking their freedoms and challenging local city as well as those federal laws there in Canada. I mean, you allow for LPs. It's rather surprising they're going in this direction as opposed to letting the free market, because they're allowing the free market to actually produce cannabis. It's surprising they're not going to allow the free market to actually distribute it to Canadians.
Can I add something to this conversation?
Always.
There's the line of the government's trying to move in and, like Johnny was saying, and take the jobs that have been given to people that are actually caring about people and showing the compassions and everything like that is all needed, and the support groups and all the support that is at these compassion centers, with the bud tenders, with people behind the desk, with the people that are supplying those centers. Once all of that is in place, and we don't have any of those bud tenders or any of those people putting any of those special needs into anybody else, and it's just simply go to the fucking thing, grab your bottle, your bag, go to the counter, pay for it, and leave. Now, once that factor is taken away and that personal factor has been taken away from everybody, not just guys that are drinking booze or anything like that or shooting drugs or anything, but everybody is not gonna have that compassion or that level of human being effect. That really makes a difference. People going to clubs and just talking to somebody about what they've been smoking, because it's not the right thing for them to be smoking, because it's an indica or it's a sativa, or if it's an indica sativa hybrid dominant whatever. They're smoking the wrong stuff. They're not getting the right treatment. So what do? Do they go back to the internet, research it up, or go to the black marketplace that has maybe a room in the back? It's a head shop. It's a hangout center. Whatever. It's an arcade. They're gonna bring. They're trying to bring this black market factor out of it, but this black market is actually the market that is helping everybody. That is. I'm not saying the LPs aren't helping people. I got nothing against anybody, But this bullshit of everybody that's been doing this industry and part of this industry and helping people and crying with people about the good things that are happening and the bad things that are happening. Now we're going to have that whole factor eliminated. And then where do we go from there, and what happens to the patients? Then what? Do the patients speak up and say we want that back, or what?
Well, why do you guys think Canada has gone in this direction, as opposed to, as stated before, letting the free market, as it's created from the free market, the whole dispensary scene as it is? So why do you think they've gone in this direction?
I don't know, Johnny. Can you answer anything like that?
Well, pretty much what you're looking at is you're looking at a system. So they're trying to legalize cannabis, and the biggest thing about Justin Trudeau is talking about how they're getting rid of the black market. So by them putting in all of these stores, they got to open up distribution centers. So if I go into other places and other friends that have, like, say, multiple stores, they have distribution centers to supply those stores. So now we're going to start seeing these models as it's like I was talking with Darren. It's like when I go to, like, a grocery store, they have, it's like a distribution center for all the supplies. Or if I go to, no matter where we go, we're getting more than one or two products. Back in the days, when I go see my buddy, he'd have one type of weed. With dispensaries, we have 10 different types of weed. I think the government is taking a look at the dispensary model. I think they're going to put in that type of a system. How they're going to start hiring around that will be interesting. I mean, there's no schooling for this. There's no education on how to prescribe cannabis. Are they going to use pharmacists? There's so many different things with that. Now, as in for the people have the voice. And I really see it, like, with prohibition. We had there was harsh, like, laws that were enforced in the beginning, and as times grew, we started getting more craft kind of breweries and stuff like that. We're gonna have the same with marijuana. I'm gonna see more of like the independent grower who's got that certain strain, or they're gonna have that certain rosin, or there'll be something that will be tiki about every individual that has their own little thing. I think as the system changes, I think the boutiques will fight hard enough in courts, and because this will turn into a court battle, huge, and we already know that. Dana Larson's posting on it. Jason, there's a lot of people already talking about what things that we have to do as patients, as people, and as Canadians to be able to ensure we get safe access, and at the same time start a new industry. And we're going to weedify, and I'm all about access. So for me, 150 stores in Ontario, when I get off the plane and I can walk into a place and get what I need because I need it now, that's access. That's what we've been fighting for.
Can you clarify more about what Dana Larson is saying that patients can do to get involved?
Oh, I was just reading some stuff he was putting on this morning, what was going on here. The government wants to close dispensaries and all black market. It is very easy. Just make legal cannabis higher quality and lower priced than the dispensaries, with a wider selection of high quality and lower price extracts and edibles. That's real legalization. If the government is going to rely on raise to shut down the current market, they will fail just like they failed for the past century of prohibition. And that's what Dana Larson said 51 minutes ago on his Facebook page. So.
Okay, so there's, so go look, people, if you're on Facebook, go to Dana Larson's page if you want to learn more, because, I know there's quite a few Canadians who must be concerned, at least, hearing this sort of situation, that especially those that actively run or dealing with dispensaries. I mean, it's always nerve-wracking to hear that your distribution access point could be, shut down completely, and that causes a great deal of anxiety to people, locally. So it's a very interesting situation there that Canada's gone in that direction.
What?
And it's really just in the state of Ontario, right?
Yes, that's the state of Ontario. Yep.
Are they looking to go national with it? Is like Ontario, they're sort of the incubation point for this situation at this point?
I'm not sure. Johnny, are you listening to that?
I think Johnny froze up on us. So that's just where we are. What do you think about this, Sam? Have you heard about this going on in Canada before?
Well, what I'm for is that individuals should be able to grow it as much as they want for their own use and family use. For if they want to sell it, I'd like it to be taxed, regulated, and treated like an industry. If dispensers want to sell it, if LPs want to sell it, if individuals want to sell it, as long as it's safe, clean, and in my mind, I think taxed and regulated, if we really want the marijuana prohibition to be gone, dead, and buried, then we have to pay our part just like any other industry.
Well, this is the reality that we're seeing. We've taken it past that idea of that what we always said, we want it legal or we want it taxed. Well, this is part of those realities that transpires that, we didn't, I guess some of us have thought about, but, the government's taken it further. It's very interesting to see, Canada go this direction for, I really thought they would go the dispensary model for some reason, allowing individuals. So do you think this will be like a Tweed canopy distribution centers or Canadian distribution centers? What do you think they will be?
Not a clue, man. I don't know what they're going to be, but.
Well, you know what? Then I think we should do a bong rip.
Well, absolutely.
Welcome, Dr. Chaldone.
Hey, everybody. How's everyone doing today?
We're doing good. We have a little technical difficulty, unfortunately, with Bubble Man, so we're kind of running the show a bit here today. We were talking about the new distribution centers in Canada, and I was kind of curious about Pennsylvania. How's it going there in Pennsylvania? I know they've harvested the hemp, and they're working on you're working on your growing distribution centers there. What's the status?
Yeah, I think there's a so again the hemp is a only experimental research plot, so I think they're only allowed to grow somewhere between 3 to 5 acres, and I've asked a couple of the people who are involved to maybe be panelists on upcoming Hash Church, so they can give us a little bit of poop on what's going on. But there's also medical licenses for grower processors that have been awarded in Pennsylvania as well. So there's, groundbreaking ceremonies to open facilities and facilities, coming online, and what's happening in a neighboring state of Maryland too as well. So yeah, there's every day, every week, there's more and more progress being made on establishing programs in these states. So it's good.
It's a positive movement forward. That's what we all want to see. And, it's one thing to hear, states saying they're going to do something. It's another seeing it actually transpire. So, it's very positive for Pennsylvania. Do you know approximately when Pennsylvanians look at having actual distribution centers to go purchase cannabis at? Is there a timeline
yet? So the facilities are just in the process of starting up right now. Doctors are being trained because they have to go through some mandatory training in order to be able to have the ability to prescribe. And they're trying to, again, increase the education of medical professionals so they can understand what are the right conditions that they should, look for to prescribe medical cannabis. And yeah, there's clinical applicants as well. So these are applicants that are associated with large research universities that have hospitals. And I'm associated with a group that's working with the Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. And this is, again, I guess the notion is that they're going to do a lot of sort of outpatient, open-ended clinical type research to try to develop some type of understanding of clinical efficacy amongst patient population groups by volunteering. So a patient that would have a particular medical condition would basically volunteer some information through a medical questionnaire on how effective a particular strain or product or oil or tincture is, and be able to develop, information and databases based on, real patient experience with the medicine.
Do you have patients lined up, or is there a way that
No,
people
I think
could
that's
get involved if they wanted to?
Yeah, this is, building the plane while you're flying it. This is all happening while I think the legislation is new. Everything's new about it. That, universities haven't done this yet. So yeah, it's a big, new, unknown thing. So no, not yet.
Are the universities embracing it, or are they still kind of at arm's length with it?
Well, it's interesting because the Pennsylvania Medical Society is now, sort of looking at it and has established like best practices and rules, and as is the Pennsylvania Bar Association, again, giving guidance to attorneys, because if it's, if something's federally against the law, theoretically, an attorney can't give you any information to help you, break federal law. So that's always been sort of a quandary for attorneys, because they can't advise, and play the necessary roles that legal folks and attorneys play in the startup of new businesses, and be able to give clients advice in the cannabis business world has been always a tricky thing for attorneys, because they can be disbarred for giving information that can lead to their clients breaking the law. And so if you read that as that they can't give help to anyone in the cannabis industry, it's useful for the Pennsylvania Bar Association and all the other state bar associations to establish a set of rules and guidelines that attorneys can follow. Well, the Pennsylvania Medical Association has done the same thing for physicians. And so again, it's giving the legitimacy of having a set of standards and a set of code of ethics, that this is how you apply this for this patient population, or in case of attorneys for, all the aspects that they interact on, business development and securing contracts and everything that attorneys need to do to be able to, see this industry, become established.
And that's a huge step in the direction of allowing, the market to, to reign. It's key that they're allowing this type of discussion at those points, because those are key. Any type of business people are going to need counseling, and you're in the Commonwealth, so Pennsylvania as the Commonwealth, it's interesting to see how that shall all shake out for the equity.
Yeah, in a Commonwealth, I don't think we can pass stuff by referendum. So like, Colorado and Oregon, like a lot of these states that have voted in things, it's been voted in by public referendum. And I think for some reason goes back to the 1600s or William Penn days. Yeah, in a Commonwealth, you can't vote in stuff by referendum. You have to, I guess the legislatures know best,
Well, it's how it is. It's what's happening here in California. We passed our laws, but now they get a hold of it because they now have to regulate it. So I totally get that. But I wonder how long before we'll see the LTP tax on cannabis, because it's going to come in time. People don't know every can of soda and anything that goes through Pennsylvania. Once state, I guess interstate commerce is allowed, that will finally take place. But I know that Pennsylvania does well off that taxation, off of things.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of talk about the privatization of that state-run liquor authority, and actually, I think like in Washington State, for example, sometimes it's the Liquor Control Board that ends up taking the role of regulating cannabis and the new cannabis industry. And I guess they figure, well, these people sold booze, I guess, or regulated the selling of booze. They must be good at regulating the sale of weed. But if you think about it, if the state wanted to have dispensaries or state-owned buildings and facilities, they already have a network, and a distribution network within the state to get a controlled dangerous substance to a place for
Right. I was talking about that before you came on, the
Yeah.
ABC stores, because when I was in Louisiana, when I grew up, they didn't have ABC stores. I could go to a 7-Eleven and pick up a pint or up to a fifth of Jack Daniels or beer, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas when I went to West Virginia, I learned that and in Pennsylvania back in the day, they had state stores. So yes, you already have that distribution. So that's actually happening in Canada. And Darren and the other Canadians were making us aware of what's actually transpiring up there. So it made me immediately think of Pennsylvania because, and West Virginia, because it was such a foreign idea to me. But now, as a distribution set up for the state, I get it and understand why it is that it is. But that model, of course, seems to have become outdated over time, and they've allowed the free market to finally, reign. But I mean, how long did it take for Pennsylvania to come around? I mean, only last year did it pass regarding buying a 6-pack on a Sunday? You know what I'm saying, at a bar?
Right.
So I mean, it took that long for that type of change. So it's interesting to see what each state is going to do, but I'm rather surprised by Canada taking this turn of going to that sort of ABC setup as opposed to letting the free market access, or those that have spent years as activists risking their freedoms, et cetera, pushing things, pushing the agenda forward and being allowed to be players in the new world, as opposed to being shut out and excluded that it looks to Canada is doing. Do you think Canada is going to go in that direction, or, do you think Pennsylvania is going to go in that direction, like the ABC stores for initiality, or do you think it will allow the free market?
No, it sounds like it's going to be free market. It sounds like that's the way they're going to go at first. Again, there's a large number of dispensaries. There's a lesser number of grower processors. And some of those grower processors have their own dispensaries. So there will be a wholesale market between the grower processors and the dispensers. Dispensers are sort of, the licenses were given out according to population centers and basically where people live. So, in the Philadelphia region, in the Pittsburgh region, and in the Harrisburg, Scranton areas, the areas where there's heavy population, they have awarded more licenses in the area, but the grower processors are distributed throughout the state. And it's kind of like a 6 sections divvied up state kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see, because the clinical applicants too, the clinical folks can also sell, I think, into the wholesale market. So the clinical licenses are also going to be, valuable commercially as well.
Excited to see what happens there. That's you have an opportunity there to really show the East Coast.
Yeah, the one real, I guess, advantage in Pennsylvania is, I won't say advantage, it's kind of like a rare thing, is autism is a qualifying condition. And, I don't know, I've heard numbers like 1 in 5 people are somewhere on the autistic spectrum or autism spectrum. So the fact that autism is a qualifying condition is pretty big. That means the patient count for at least that condition could potentially be, in the millions.
Without a doubt. So
yeah, again, I've heard some stories about the effectiveness of cannabis with autism and, things like Asperger's or Tourette's, neurological disorders. And I'm not really sure that, again, there's a sort of one-size-fits-all solution to how effective cannabis is for autism.
Well, I know it helps me focus whenever I'm in situations or stressful situations where other people are like, I don't know, I can smoke cannabis, and that helps me, in those types of situations, but I'm one of those. We're some of the rare ones on here who can fully function while on cannabis, whereas we've all come across people who can't, unfortunately, and that's just nor here nor there. It just is what it is. Let's see.
Well, there are some stories of, again, people, cannabis bringing autistic patients alive. I mean, completely, like people talking for the first time, putting sentences together. I mean, like they lived in a very, different world before they started being treated with cannabis. And again, I'm not exactly sure. I think autism is kind of a manifestation of several potential neurological conditions, and they may not all be the same, but certainly given the prevalence of the CB1 receptor in the human brain, you would think that, again, cannabis would have some impact on what it does, and maybe it's related to the same way that it works with epilepsy. But you'd think that, again, there's some kind of magic combination of using cannabis or being able to nourish to give good endocannabinoid responses to maybe some of these conditions that lead to seizures and whatnot.
Well, it's been known as the tree of knowledge. It brings, wisdom to those who imbibe in it. Correct, Sam? I've read that in history books regarding hash and cannabis.
I'm sure lots of people consider it the tree of knowledge and tree of wisdom and tree of medicine and tree of money. I mean, all different kinds of things.
Touche. But I'm talking through history. I've actually read, manuscripts and things like that seem to reference.
No, I agree with you.
So I definitely, Doctor, I definitely see there's aspects of cannabis bringing, affecting, but of course it also depends on what strain, what genetic to that individual. That's the thing we also have to work on as well, is to find those combinations that work. And as we know, it's individualistic. It's very hard to come up with a swath recommendation dosage.
Research has started on cannabinoids for the last couple decades, but now we're starting to focus on not only single or combination cannabinoid suites in a particular profile, but the terpene that goes along with it, or terpenes, I should say. And that the amount of different profiles that can be presented from just 150 terpenes and some 100 cannabinoids is already hundreds of thousands. But when you consider that you can alter the profiles just by increasing one of those terpenes or two of them, or three, there's an infinite variety. As we all know from practical use of cannabis for decades, each cannabis batch you get is a little bit different.
And that's a fact.
It's mostly just THC. I'm talking about the past, not the future, where we've got a lot of CBD and we're starting to get other things out there too.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at, new aspects, but without a doubt, those ratios have, always altered. And that's kind of always been the frustration of some patients when they finally find something that works for them, is that works for that batch. And then the next batch that comes through, it's either slightly altered in one way, shape, or form. And that's definitely, how it's grown, how it's maintained, how it's harvested, all those things, and consistency all the way through are one of the most important things to do, and one of the reasons why Bedrocan is so successful with the Dutch government, because they just grow consistently and they get consistent results, which is...
Not only does Bedrocan do that, but once they start flowering in the room, they have no entrance by human beings. It's untouched by human hands.
That was one of the most interesting things when I was there, to actually see, one, how far the lights were from the canopy from when they put them in, because I saw a room that they just put the plants in, and I saw rooms with full canopy. Of course, to see the evenness of the canopy was that was interesting. It was nice to see. I don't usually see that. But to see that the room were completely sealed and no one goes in once they're flowered was something and a concept I have never heard of, much less seen in application. And to see it was...
No, I've been doing it for decades. I have it patented. It's called untouched by human hands. Of course, we did use monkeys.
Harvesting monkeys, or...
Yeah, special harvesting monkeys.
Or beneficial monkeys.
The parents were coconut monkeys that would twist the coconuts, but these guys twist the buds off.
So you train them by monkey see, monkey do.
You got it.
That's some advanced apiary. But that's the only that I've ever seen. I've ever seen is Bedrocan do that. I've not seen.
I've never heard such a silly thing in my whole life.
It was rather surprising, and to see some of the problems that happen in there on the floor, etc. I photographed that, and also what happens in the ceilings and things like that. Yeah, I was rather surprised by that grow altogether, but it was fascinating to see that, yeah, them locking that all in. So I don't recommend that, people. So don't lock your things in a room and walk away.
The other thing they do, which may or may not be beneficial for some people, but I doubt for everybody, is they gamma ray nuke it and sterilize it, and that reduces the terpenes up to 30%.
And we know, after seeing that facility, why they do that. I'll leave it at that.
It's to get rid of the traces of robots that they're using to grow.
I know they should transfer over to monkeys, apparently. Probably. Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's not fair to the monkeys.
Yeah, it is, because I let them keep half hash they collected on their fingers.
Sam, did the monkeys eat cannabis when you were in India? Did you see them eat or attack the plants or the hash?
I never saw it, but not that I know of. You know, part of the reason might be that when you eat a plant, it's mostly THCA, and you're going to have very little effect.
Right, it'll just pass through the body.
Yes. Other animals, yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of birds and other animals. I've had deer eat plants in Pennsylvania that I grew back in the day. So I mean,
In California, I've seen wood rats just strip the bark off the plants because they wanted it for nests.
Oh, they took all the... So they literally redded the plant alive.
Yeah, and it wasn't healthy for the plant.
No, I don't recommend that. Yeah, I've early growing it, we've always had to put mesh screens over the plants to make sure rats or any small rodents don't want to munch on the little tender shoots. But yeah, deer are, I had literally 41 out of 42 plants eaten by deer. So I'm not,
Was that pre-flowering or after flowering?
After flowering.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I've seen deer. Sometimes they'll eat the leaves and stuff for the moisture because they can't find water.
The plants were destroyed. You could tell it was chewed, because they were still hanging on the plants, etc. But there were lay marks everywhere. Apparently, they must have come through as a group and just got their game on and then crashed, then moved on. But yeah, there was lay marks everywhere.
Yeah, so it was biker deer.
Yeah, it was whitetail. Is Pennsylvania. They have whitetail. They don't have mule deer like out here in the West Coast.
Well, deer are a serious problem, but I think wood rats might even be worse. And if you're in a civilized area, gophers.
People have been having problems out here with sudden oak death attacking cannabis plants. And what just happens is their plants just die and they can't figure out why. And
I'm not familiar or seen problems with it, so I can't really comment.
It causes the mushiness of the cellulose, and it destroys any type of movement of fluid. So basically, it causes a mushiness right as the roots and the stalk separate right in there, and the plants just literally collapse. It's under their own weight. So a friend
Is
of
it
mine,
airborne or soil-borne?
it seems to be airborne. I had a friend of mine who grows in the Central Valley, and he lost last year. He lost his entire crop in greenhouse due to it. So it's becoming his entire greenhouse. So actually, it was 2 years ago. It wasn't last year because he got a successful crop.
Did he actually get it identified? By,
yes, because he's a fourth generation farmer in Central Valley, so he knows what he's doing and has access to testers.
I'm not familiar with it, and I grew in the Central Valley for a decade, but
it's a recent phenomenon. It's a type of rot that is sudden oak death has kind of appeared in the last 5 to 10 years, and it's a main problem here in Oakland because there's an Oakland oak, and they're trying to preserve it as best as they can, and they've been susceptible to it. I have an Oakland oak in my backyard. I have an Oakland oak actually outside my window in front of me here, so I keep an eye on them all the time, and they've been without any problem. But it's been unfortunately throughout the California and moving up and around the West Coast.
Well, that's a drag. I like oak trees because if you look, you can find chanterelles.
Right. I grew up in Louisiana with huge live oaks. I used to play on, live oaks almost the size of some of these sequoias in diameter, et cetera, et cetera. So because these are, there's Evangeline oaks, et cetera. So I have always had a fondness for them and, how deep their roots are. I was, rather surprised how shallow the roots are of the sequoias here in California.
They're really well known for having such shallow roots, but they make up for it in age and size and girth.
Well as being fireproof. I mean, fire resistant as well. That's a lot of people I know who use, redwoods on their houses out here in California for that type
It's also
of
insect resistant in houses.
That as well. And that's key. But there's a lot of problems right now out here in California and throughout the West because everything's on fire. Up there, Darren, up there in BC and stuff, it's all, the fires are going. And I know a lot of outdoor people are, upset because their crops are being ashed on, as well as, those particulates that are burning or falling and, gutting into the, your crystals and everything on your plants, and you can't wash that sort of thing off. So it's causing a lot of problems for people literally from California to Missouri right now that are growing outdoors. So we feel for you, everybody. Any suggestions, Sam, or what people could do regarding if they're in fallout areas of a fire as best as they can do to protect the plant?
I honestly, if you're inside of a greenhouse or a building, you could try to filter the air that comes in that you're supplying your plants to, so you're not spreading any contaminants to them, and that would protect them if you can. Whereas in a greenhouse, it can be harder because most greenhouses have open ventilation up on the roof. So and outdoors, what the hell can you do? I honestly don't know. Maybe pray the fires go away.
Well, isn't it like any other natural disaster areas? It's basically fucking take it as it comes. And if it's a fucked up crop, it's a fucked up crop. I wonder if the ashes, any of that stuff will do anything to the soil.
Yeah, if a hail comes or a flood comes or hurricane comes, you lose your crop and you grow again next year.
Yeah, my buddy up north, he had a hailstorm just tear through parts of Pooskoopi, is the town called. There may be 1,000 people living there, 500. How much? About that. A hailstorm hit so hard that it killed my buddy's whole garden. It smashed sunroofs out of houses, windows out of houses. His 1970 GMC pickup, mint condition 70 pickup, smashed and dented. Like someone went around with golf ball hammer and smashed everywhere on the truck. Smashed windows, wreaked havoc. Like house insurance, the siding on his house smashed, garden destroyed, everything. It's a natural disaster. Mom Nature was mad and she laid her fucking havoc across the land. That was that. Pick up and move on. That's the shitty part, but that's the reality of it. And that's the same with our
in places like California, and I'm sure in Vancouver also it's true. I mean, before there was man, nature had a natural cycle, but there would be a lot of rain, lightning would hit something, just repeated over and over and over.
Yeah, they've realized that as I go to national parks all the time, and they finally realized, as opposed to trying to control these fires, that it's best to just let them go, because they've realized after all these years of conservation that it's really the best thing that they can do is allow nature to do what it does, because that type of burning clears the brush and clears all the undergrowth. Right, and
humans have houses.
Right, but they've also realized to stop doing that so much in recent history and just allowing those houses to burn, as opposed to, they still try to save them the best as they can, but there's pine cones that are triggered by fires when they come through, so they release their seeds. There's a whole eco structure to these fires that they've now come to.
No, it's absolutely true. After a fire, there's new life.
New life, right. That's right. The fires create it as well. If it wasn't for the fire, it would not be. That's it. Those seeds wouldn't sprout or do anything without the fire from those pine cones. That's what germinates them or activates them or something. I don't know.
And it's also why you don't have those types of old growth forests, because you don't have that type of undergrowth. We were talking last week about old growth forests, and there's things about old growth forests, all the different layers of canopy and flora that are there that exist that they don't exist out here in the West because of fires and how they come through and they clear all that out, and natural selection becomes the winner of the day out here in the Sierras, or all the way up into Canada,
Yeah, those big areas up in California where the sequoias are, that they had small fires go through there every 10, 20, 50, whatever years, but the sequoias were there for a couple thousand, and most of them did just fine.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see out in the Sierras right now because of the fires, and we send our best to those that are out there doing the dirty work, and the fire jumpers and the firefighters that are protecting people's houses and everything right now, because they're doing work that definitely needs to be done, and we respect what they're doing. And that stuff's crazy, because I know a lot of people rely on their hard work and dedication. So I'm going to send a bong rip out to those hardworking individuals who are trying to save other people's lives selflessly. So shout out to them. Hey, can we get a bong rip there, Darren? What are you smoking on, Sam?
Tangy.
You like the Tangy a lot lately, huh? Or that's just a lot that you have around?
Both.
Tangy is very popular out here in California right now. And of course, they're mixing that with now everything. And you've got all kinds of different strains coming out from it. So which of course comes from the calio. And yeah, so it's interesting to see all these different.
It sounds good. People should try to get not only the taste they like, but the effects they like. Then I would also suggest in the strength they prefer, because you can smoke smaller amounts to adjust strength, but it's nice if you can get what.
Right now I'm smoking some fresh off the bud. Good guy out of SoCal. Some OG lemonade live resin.
Fresh off the bud, huh?
Yeah. His as you can see, it's
I want to start competing with this company. I'm going to start one called Fresh from the Bud.
pretty much.
Smoking some West Coast concentrates, bubble hash.
What flavor there, D?
It is Purple Kush, PK.
The Kushes are popular. Hey,
It's a batch from a while ago. It's a good one.
heard of any new strains out in Amsterdam there, Sam?
No,
you're
but
not even looking.
I'm sort of semi-retired and not really very active, so I hear about them when people bring them to my attention, but I'm not out there looking like I used to.
Gotcha. Yeah, you used to have your finger on the pulse always. That's why I was asking.
I mean, now there's just these multi-poly complex hybrids that, they're so complicated, their genetic background, that and everybody just takes really, really, really good female clones and crosses them with other really, really, really good people. That seems to be the fastest way to achieve something that's probably going to be really, really, really good.
Yeah, we live in definitely a very poly world. Well, it was interesting to see. I would love to, when we originally were doing testing, it was so interesting to see how very close in ratios, of course, all these cannabis were. I would say that 96% of them all had very similar profiles of THC to other ratios. So we didn't really have terpene testing originally, and I'd love to see that in comparison, because that's the difference between each one of those strains.
Yeah, because even when you grow 100 plants from some modern multi-complex hybrid, you grow 100 plants, the odds are you're not just one expression. You're going to get a diverse selection of expression.
And that's the fun part, selecting and finding out which one of those is the reigning champ, because it's usually just gone off of vigor, or how fast it grew, its strength, its overall health, as opposed to growing out. I mean, did you ever like grow out every 101 of those and try every single 100 of them to figure out which profile was best? Or what did you do for your selection? Just off of smell, taste?
Well, in the beginning, I used how vigorous the plant was, because if it wasn't vigorous, I wasn't so interested. But also smell, flavor, resin production, flower to leaf ratio, and really important things like the effect.
And they were all shaped by your palate, because you even said you went toward the more sweeter as opposed to the more of the savior.
But I was also selecting not just for myself, but yes, in general, I used my values for the judgments, yes.
Because there's all kinds of strains that have been lost that are of different, flavor profiles that, and this is just the reality of just, farming, as you were saying, it's a lot of experimentation.
As long as you have the genes for that cannabinoid, which I don't see that as a problem. They're all out there. And as long as you have the genes for the particular terpene synthase, there's only 150 that we've ID'd in cannabis so far, then you can breed any chemical profile combination of a particular cannabinoid profile matched with the particular terpene profile. It's just a matter of doing the work. And things like patient surveys, like you were talking about, that gives a kind of feedback for what particular group of cannabinoid or cannabinoids work best with which terpenes for which medical indications. And it's a combination. Once that information is available, then breeders can target that combination.
So start your germination, people. Get your seeds going. Find those genetics. Woohoo! Find what works, because that's a great thing. We all have different flavors and we all have different flavor tastes. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen when these, with these legal markets and as these different type of aspects of genetics come online of, this next generation that, puts forward. I'm very excited to see over the horizon, cannabis wise, because it's going to go all kinds of different directions.
Not only from the different states, but also from, different international countries. I can't wait till it's legal worldwide, and it's just like buying a bottle of wine from, which you can, in California, from 100 to 150 different countries, easy.
Oh, I'd love to order my Durban from South Africa. Oh, absolutely. and yeah, various other genetics, but as well, Sam, though, I mean, how many of these old world genetics are still out there that are being, I mean, there's small aspects in the world there's still patches of, but
I'd say the best chance to find some pure, for example, Durban South African genetics would be there. I mean, I've got some, but I'm sure there are people there and they can grow it in the best way for that area so that they can produce, in other words, it'll be like boutique cannabis produced for export. Not like the way it used to be, but way better.
Right, because they've been growing it already for generations, so they already know what they're doing.
Using traditional genetics.
Right, but I mean, I'm curious as to how much of those traditional genetics are still out there, because we know that the world's been flooded with these quasi-Euro Cali genetics over the past couple of decades.
It's absolutely true, and until cannabis is really legal, we can't answer that because nobody knows for sure.
Right, and that has to be that research and that gene mapping to actually break that all down.
The worst obvious examples of what you're talking about is Mexico, Jamaica, Morocco. Those three, they're so flooded, I don't think you can find any untouched landrace genetics from those three countries. It's unless somebody took it and has it. Because,
what about Thailand or Indonesia or somewhere like that?
Well, I don't think it's as bad, but probably the worst actually is Morocco, because in Morocco they don't cull males. They allow males to pollinate because they produce hashish, and all of it is seeded. So that means any male introduction gets spread through the community within a few years to everywhere.
Mm.
I mean, the first generation, it's pure male pollen from an imported genetic. The second year, there's thousands of plants that are half that foreign genetic. And the third generation, there's millions of plants that are a quarter of that genetic. So it gets through the whole population with things. I doubt you can find untouched land races in Morocco. It just, it wouldn't be logical that you could.
It doesn't seem like it would be. So it's the same way for, people have always asked when I go to Maui, it's like, do you ever see real Maui Wowie? I was like, I don't think there ever was real Maui Wowie. And if it was, it's been eradicated a long time ago from, the helicopters and harassment. So all that's there is what's brought to the islands, That's just the reality of the situation. And most of that, or Cali over here?
I don't think there's a lot of commercial production except for medical in Hawaii.
Now,
There used to be, but there's, I mean, there was enough marijuana that Hawaii was an export in the late 60s, early 70s. They were an exporting, but yeah, it's reversed, and they're an importing country, importing area. They want to sell it. They want it so they can sell it to the tourists.
Yeah, everybody I know that was local before the medical that they have growing. I mean, just grows in very small 1-2 outdoor tops and a couple plants indoor tops, because they have to, discretion is key, and they still fly helicopters, or the government still gives them money
to grow it legally in Hawaii. You give them your GPS address where you're allowed to grow 5 plants or something. You have to tell them the location, and
yes, now you do.
Yes, correct, now.
And I know that there's, I when I go in December, I hope to check out the facility there in Maui, because they're producing, but I think they already had just a short production run, and they already ran out. So it's one of those initial situations that we've seen where when they've got vertically integrated setups like that it takes time for the grow to catch up to the consumer. So it's definitely, they're going through that growing pain as we speak.
Well, I used to, in the early 70s, I thought Hawaiian, and the reason was because they were using narrow leaf drug genetics in Hawaii, and it was some of the really, really, really interesting psychedelic trippy type cannabis.
But that's cannabis that, again, that was brought to the island. There doesn't seem to be any type
No,
of
it was not Hawaiian varieties. No,
Correct.
They were grown in Hawaii by people who had been on the hash trail and stuff.
And pretty much any cannabis from Maui was just called Maui Wowie, correct? It wasn't necessarily a strain.
I would not be surprised if that was true, for sure.
Yeah, if that's the rumor I've been told, because again, they were growing. I have artist renditions. I even have one here for artist thing for Maui Gold. Maui's finest cannabis grown on the Mount Haleakala, and it's hold on here. It's being brought over. And it's from the 70s. It's kind of it's just one of those, it's a print. Let's see. So yeah, that's one of those crazy things. Fine cannabis at a popular price, harvested on the slopes of Haleakala. It was more of just advertising and just things like that. It wasn't any type of specific genetic. From even people that I've talked to, they were just, as you stated, Sam, they were long leaf equatorial genetics that were brought to the islands and grown apparently very well. It grew, those equatorials apparently.
Yeah, because they're resistant to the kind of problems that you get in a wet, hot, short photo period environment, and I'm sure a lot of them did super nice.
And how would you rate the quality of that cannabis? Because you had tried some of that Maui back in the day, yes?
Oh yeah, no, I thought some of it was almost as good as the haze, almost as good as the best Thai sticks. It was really, really, really good.
Excellent. Yeah, the first time I saw Thai sticks, I didn't believe that was actually cannabis.
I've seen people grow haze and haze hybrids in Hawaii too that came out really, really, really nice. They didn't want to grow super big giant plants because they didn't want thieves to see it. They weren't afraid of the police because they were legal under that program, but they could only grow, I think it was 5 plants or something. But
yeah,
they thought the quality came out super nice.
Oh, here's somebody. They want to see this again. The Maui Gold. So I got this in Paella.
Isn't that Einstein smoking that?
Yes, it's Einstein holding a pipe, which if he was, tobacco pipe, but yeah, it's definitely. I picked that up 10 years ago in Maui and
I
Paella.
didn't even know Einstein went to Maui.
Yeah, it was his place to hang out over the guilt of the atomic bomb, I guess. Who knows? I don't think he's ever been there. But of course, somebody will produce a picture of him in Hawaii and with a lei around his neck and some Bermuda shorts. I'm still stunned over your bone pipe last week there, Sam. I have to say that was definitely the mic drop of the month for sure.
I've seen quite a few people who have the very top half of a human skull, and they use it for when you break up buds, or you make a joint with hash and weed, or with hash and tobacco, as some Europeans do, and they have like a little hash bowl that they use. And,
wow, they use a human skull as a rolling tray.
Yeah, but it's a rolling bowl. Yeah.
That's a whole other level. It's just a whole other level. That's that's some Hunter S. Thompson in his briefcase sort of shit.
I think they were all bought either in Nepal or Tibet.
Yeah, I've seen Tibetan monks that have the knuckle necklaces that are carved into little skulls. They actually take the knuckles from the dead monks and actually carve them into skulls and make them into, I guess, kind of prayer beads. I guess you've seen that as well.
I saw that kind of stuff when I was there. I like the Nepali people, and the Tibetan people. I like them too.
Very interesting. It had to be kind of cultural, submersion that you were in, and to look around and see all that.
The Tibetans I was dealing with were in Ladakh, which is what's commonly called Indian Tibet. And China got most of Tibet, but part of Tibet was the Indians took control of, and that's the capital city is Leh, and it's Ladakh. And it was very, very Tibetan when me and my wife went there, but now I've heard there's more and more and more Indian business people, moving up there to control because there's a lot of tourist money and stuff. Unbelievable place if you ever get a chance to visit, but don't go if you are expecting a lot of infrastructure. What they've got is just age-old tradition. It's Tibetan, and it's not screwed over the way it has been in China by China would say to modern world, and the Tibetans, some of them might disagree.
Hey, Bubble Man, how we doing over here? I see you in chat.
I'm doing okay. I'm listening. I'm enjoying. It's hard because I've got a bit of a choppy connection, but yeah, dude, you guys are saving the day for sure. I've eventually got to get back to the event here, but I want to stay as long as I can and hang out and listen to church.
Oh, good. We can see you now.
I want to nominate new Pope of Patch Church, and I say, long live Etienne and Bubble Man. If he can't be here, that's the way it goes.
That's it.
Whoops, there he is.
I can't claim any type of popitude. There we go, bong rip. I can do that. Outstanding.
I don't even have my D-nail here up, and I have no way of puffing for Hash Church, so I'll just
I will
just
puff
go.
one for you, Marcus.
We will puff one in your honor.
I'll blow it right in your direction.
Thank you. Well, I'm in Toronto, don't forget, so don't be blowing it in the wrong direction.
Let's play a little catch up.
Oh yeah.
know if I told you guys this already or
There
not.
was from Bayfield.
Rescued a
Did you
bird.
know that?
Oh, sorry. Was you saying something?
No,
Sam?
no problem. Excuse me.
Oh, my cat's captured a bird today or last night sometime, and I come out in my hallway and there's some feathers on the floor, and I'm like, oh, I can catch another bird in here to eat. So I'm looking for the carcass, and there's no carcass, so I'm thinking they ate the whole thing, and there's just the feathers left over. A couple hours later, I'm looking on my windowsill in the kitchen, getting a drink for making my coffee, and there's a little bird on my windowsill hiding behind the vitamins. So I grabbed the towel and I grabbed this, I put it over the thing, and I moved the vitamins out so delicately, so nicely to save this little bird. I could feel his little heartbeat just pounding away in the cloth, in the towel. I bring him outside, halfway down my driveway to the tail end of my truck, and I put him on the back of the truck. And the little shit fucking flies directly back into the fucking house and goes and hides behind the couch. I was like, you're free, man. Fuck. So now I can't find him. I can't get him out from under the couch, and the cats are going to probably eat him. So Mother Nature is running its course once again in my living room.
Natural selection happening.
It is. I tried to save it, man. It was saved, and it flew right back in. I couldn't believe it.
That's why you got to close the door behind you when you go outside.
That's the first thing I thought of, but I just had him in the towel. I just wanted to get him out there.
Yeah, that reminds. Yeah, I had. Man, that reminds me. I remember I was like 11 years old, and I caught a garter snake, and it was wrapped around my arm, and I brought it into the kitchen, and my mom was asleep, and I got a jar, and I got its tail in, and I tried to throw its head down and then put the cap on, and it just springs straight out of the jar, goes right behind everything on the counter, and I'm just frantically, looking for it. As I just grab it, I turn around, and there's my mom with her arms on her head. What the hell are you doing? I'm like, oh, shit. I have a snake in the house. You brought a snake in the house? Oh, yeah.
No, what you should have said was you found a snake in your house and you wanted to get rid of it so your mom wouldn't get upset.
I wasn't that bright in the moment. Back then, I was I was a deer in the headlights. I was like, argh. I was a good little Catholic boy, so I confessed immediately. I was, yeah. I learned to lie later. That's the honest truth. I don't know what else to say.
A little puff with you guys.
Hey, all right. Knew you couldn't last without us.
I like the picture of Bubble Man. It kind of looks like he's pointing his finger down at you saying, don't tell lies.
Well, I learned that a lot, in my adulthood, don't lie. That way you don't have to cover up your own tracks. You don't have to remember what you said, It's one of those life lessons, There's little white lies sometimes you have to say in life, but,
sometimes you think that in the short term, lies are better or easier. But in the long term, the truth is.
Yeah, you got to always play the long game in that resolve. You're only selling yourself short.
Well, who the hell wants to be deceived? I mean, how lame is that? Let's just deceive our friends and the people.
The American public apparently like it because look what we keep electing. We keep electing fools and idiots.
People go to Las Vegas. What is it for?
What is it for?
To be deceived.
You mean that's not really the Eiffel Tower? You're on mute there, Bubble Man. That pen looks really good, man. How's it working?
Dude, it's delicious. I gotta say, and you jam like a ridiculous amount of terpenes into like any type of cannabinoid mixture and inhale it. It's generally gonna taste pretty. No, we sold out of the pens and the cartridges today and yesterday, so it's been wonderful. My friends actually, and then they filled them up with rosin. So we were actually selling rosin-filled pens at my booth, but really it was them selling rosin filled pens, but I just like to be a part of it. I liked watching people come up and, you know, I'd watch them like get it going and kind of teach them how to use it. And that was really exciting. Tippy.
Yeah, I got to get hold of Tony. He's got one for me. I got to try it. Looks too good to have to. It looks like finally one that will work for me.
Yeah, I think you're in for some luck, Etienne. I think he has the California smoothie for you, which is like strawberry banana goo mixed with clements. Ridiculous.
Oh my God. My tongue will be so confused by flavor. And that's okay. There's worse things.
Manage. I'm not worried about you. Well, I do appreciate. Yeah, I know it's a little choppy for me here, and it was a little bit rough to try and get a church going. But even if we can pull off a couple hours, I'm super stoked, man. I do appreciate Wade, our beautiful email the other day, and I meant to reply to you, Wade. I've just been traveling and I've been busy. I read it on my phone when I landed, actually. And we also love to have you here on Hash Church, Bud, as often as we can.
Yes, Wade. Hi and welcome, and thank you.
And Marcus, who's going to be our special guests for next week? I mean, I can think of all kinds of people, but I'm curious who's making a promise to show.
I haven't really asked too many people, but I'll probably send out an email today, and it's going to be a very long email list. And in fact, I would ask you guys as well if you can compile any emails or contact info for people that have been on the show. I want to invite Jessica back. I want to invite Samantha Elvey back. I want to get, like, you know, put an invitation out to Dr. Grinspoon and all these different people that have been on the show over the years. It would be it'd be pretty awesome to have just like a nice flow of people. And Natasha said she would also help out with that. So I'm looking forward to it.
As much as I want to be here next week, I will not be here. I will be sitting in my seats in the stadium in New Orleans. So I will not be able to be on board. So
well, we will miss you, Ed.
That's all good. I'll be back the week after for sure and continue onward.
And what happens if the hurricane turns and it goes to New Orleans?
Well, the one behind it is what we're concerned about, and the one behind that as well. So we're keeping an eye, and that's happened before. That happened to me for Katrina. I actually bought my sister and her kids and myself tickets to that game, and I had to cancel the game. So if that was the reality, I still have those tickets, by the way. And that's just the reality of being from the South is, you know, when hurricanes happen, you cancel. You don't fight the system. You can't fight the system. Mother Nature wins. End of story. So if that happens, then I will be here, you know, for sure next week. I won't fly out on Friday to New Orleans. So, but I'll know by then, and I'll keep you posted.
Won't. We'd love to have you.
And I love to be here. And if that's an opportunity for me to be here, then I'll enjoy that as well. But yeah, these hurricanes are just, man, that I mean, Harvey was bad enough for Houston. I mean, there's no municipality I know could have survived 4 foot of water falling on it. I mean, anywhere, much less now, you know, Irma coming right behind, which has just absolutely devastated the Bahamas. I mean, beyond some places beyond recognition. I saw a video today of somebody on a beach in the Bahamas, and there's no water at the beach. They had literally, the storm had sucked all the water for miles off the Atlantic completely. So it's just the amount of force that thing is generating and the strength. It's not even funny. So I have people that are actually in the path of that. So I send my love and I wish the best for you, because people can't afford to get out. And that's the reality. And I wish them nothing but the best. And we got other ones right behind that. So I don't know how, after seeing these storms that are considered once in a lifetime, once in a century, we've had 5 of them in the last, 10 years or so, before humans, or at least Americans who deny climate change, start to believe that we're actually having effect on the reality that we're seeing. And I can't see with this type of evidence out there that people still deny it. It's amazing. Doc, it's got to be absolutely dumbfounding for you, from a man of science, to watch constant denial of actual science, replicated science, and for them to go off of bullshit papers that have actually been debunked to continue to deny man's influence on the weather that's happening is, I don't get it.
Yeah, by senators whose states need billions of dollars in government aid, right? But it's amazing. Well, not amazing, but imagine if there would have been a cannabis industry in Houston. I mean, if there was an industry like cannabis on the ground in industrial areas of large cities like Houston, like it is in Denver, it would have been completely wiped out.
Oh, hands down, there's no way it could survive a week without light. No way.
Well, just all the water, and then the water is filled with all kinds of runoff and toxins. I mean, it would basically just wipe out your entire crop, and you'd lose, a lot of equipment, and your facilities would just become completely fouled with all that mucky water. Yeah. I mean, you see what people are doing is they're coming in and, gutting their house at the water line, right? So you see everyone removing their sheetrock, and I guess it would be a good time to be Georgia Pacific selling sheetrock, or Louisiana. These sheetrock companies are probably making a bundle. But you'd have to imagine, again, that, like with something as devastating as this, I mean, it's like not only something like this, like if this were to happen, if there were a cannabis industry in there, all the people who work there, well, right away, their houses are flooded, right? Their jobs are basically on hold, right? Because their whole, operations is completely flooded. I mean, your whole life is just completely devastated just because of a hurricane. And, and then out in Oregon, I mean, the whole state's on fire, for Christ's sakes. It's unbelievable. I mean, we're going to find, again, someone had made this comment in chat earlier that outdoor Oregon in 2017 is going to be the year of the concentrate, because everyone's going to have to distill their stuff to make it not smoky. I mean, I don't know what the impact of all the smoke in the air is going to be on these plants, but certainly all the ash can't be a good thing.
Not good. Yeah, we were talking about it before you came on, Doc.
It's definitely
how the smoke and the ash, and it not only coats the plants, it also coats the rosin. And that you can taste it. I've actually, if anybody has smoked cannabis that's been around a fire, you can taste it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It alters the flavor and everything. So it's very, as Sam was saying, the unfortunate reality is, it's not good cannabis, and that's just the reality of farming. It's lost for that year.
Yeah, is it translated into the concentrates that you make from it too? Like you say, you could taste it in the cannabis. Is that like smoking flower, but in the concentrates? Is it also?
Yeah, because it gets in the glands, and it stores. It doesn't stay. I mean, it does stay. I mean, the plant continues to build around it, so it's actually inside the crystals themselves. Correct, Sam?
It's no bueno.
Yeah, it's no bueno. And
I would make full hash with it. In Jamaica, often they try to dry herb around fires, and certain people do it, and it's like you just smoke out the bud.
It is a no-no.
Defend product. What's that, Sam?
I said it's a no-no. You don't do that.
Enough said. Enough said. It's a no-no.
It's bad. And unfortunately, as we were saying, the entire Western United States is on fire right now. And as well as, you're dealing with that all up in BC. Fires are going like mad up there as well, right?
The whole province seems to be on fire right now, and I can't imagine it not affecting damn near everyone's crop.
So is it just dry right
too
now?
good.
Are rain's not coming through? Is that why it's continuing to burn up there?
Pine beetle kill.
Yeah, the precipitation is
the
low.
province with dead, dry cinder block fucking trees now.
See, we have that problem here in California from the last year's drought. There's millions of trees throughout the Sierras right now that are just dead. And they're trying to cut them out. You can literally see them brown against the green all summer long. And it's so spotted without, you could see why, something like that would continue and why there's such, kindling out there for these fires. But I hate to hear of, that type of beetle breakout that's caused. You're losing tons of forest.
Mother Nature's doing her purge. That forest needs to regrow and everything because it's dead now. But it's just unfortunate there's human populations in the path of them now and that sort of stuff, and did get in the way. Like I drove from Vancouver right up to Prince George, and for about 600-700 kilometers, it was so smoky that you couldn't see the valley, a bunch of miles ahead of you because the smoke would cover the mountains. And then about the last 100 or so, 200 kilometers, it cleared up. But it also caught up this way. I'd say the lower province was hit for sure with all the smoke. I toured the upper province in the midsummer when all the fires were happening, and there was no fires up there and no smoke or anything had reached up there. But there's no dead beetle kill up there. It's all plush, beautiful green forest for as far as you can see. It's quite nice to see. But down this way, the lower province is just devastated with pine beetle kill, and it's a matchbook.
And you get storms and you get one lightning strike and it just goes, huh?
Yep, the matchbook lights up and just fucking rips, man. It's killed a lot of wildlife. The whole works. It's devastated this whole province in one way or another.
Nothing you can do about it either. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it rains come through and quiets it down there. Makes it a little better.
Damn beetles.
Yeah, pine beetle. Used to be cold enough that it'd kill them, but man-made lakes and all that sort of stuff has changed weather patterns up here and everything, so the winters are not as long as well. And of course the global change in pattern, weather and all that kind of stuff, right? As well. We don't get the winters like we used to get here, even close, not even close. By Halloween, we'd have snow that stayed right through till April. We'd have 20 to 40 below months, 2-3 months maybe sometimes. But yeah.
This is so fucking tasty.
And what flavor is that?
This one is the Viper with Jamaican sour diesel terpenes. But the really tasty one is at my booth right now, which is the Where Is My Bike?
Ooh,
and we put in Swiss beans. Yeah.
I like just the name. Where Is My Bike? I can't wait to try this strain. It sounds so Amnesia Haze like.
It is so Amnesia Haze. It's a super old cut of Amnesia. Some type of Kush, I think it was. It's very unique. It's definitely nice.
I wish I had the.
Go ahead, Etienne.
I was about to say, I wish I had the news. They usually would send me the ICRS news. But for some reason, it's coming later in the day now. So I don't get it to give all the update on what's the latest stuff on the news, because some people ask what's up. So sorry, it just depends on when it comes out. When it comes out in the early morning, when we do the show, I can actually read it. But for some reason, it's coming out in the afternoons now, so I don't have it.
Ah. Well,
Otherwise,
sometimes that's how she goes.
yep, exactly. So I just try to go with the flow of it. I guess we lost Wade.
Yeah, he texted me. He said that he was having a hard time getting a connection. I'm running connections a bit spotty, so it might make it more difficult for you guys. Not too sure.
You do come in choppy, but everybody else seems to come in as normal. Sam's his usual choppy self.
You guys are usually pretty good for me when I'm fat at home, but well, I still, it was Natasha earlier was like, oh, maybe you could just skip a day, and I thought about it. I was like, maybe I could skip a day, but like 1 week before the 3-year anniversary, where we've never missed a single day, we're going to take a day off before the 3-year anniversary. Uber, and I raced back.
So this event, what is the event you're at?
Sarah Sunday's Karma Cup. So it is, it's pretty roots, but I'll tell you, like poor Sarah gets a lot of hate. I mean, I seen one guy posting the other day, like all the math, and he's saying that, oh, she sold this many passes for this much money. She sold, of these for this much money. Oh, look at that. He privated his account. That's funny. And then added up like $1 million or $500,000 or $400,000. And it's just, people are trying to make it seem like she's just killing it and crushing it, when really she's so stressed out. There's so many logistics. There's so much work, and she's done a good job, in my opinion. The venue is not the best venue in the world. It's a parking lot, hole in the ground type of thing with booths in it, but she's bringing. There are people rocking through this thing left, right, and center. We were nonstop for 10 plus hours yesterday. We didn't get a break. And that's how, because there's barely, the size of a parking lot, maybe a half an acre, or a quarter of an acre even, maybe smaller. But good.
Well, haters are always
not much to complain about. What's that?
It's like haters are always going to hate, but it costs and takes a lot of time and energy, and people don't realize the logistics. I mean, back when we would throw events, just the cost of insurance alone, we had to, just one event, you had to have over $1 million in insurance just to hold the event. You know what I'm saying? So I don't get off where people start throwing that type of, unless they're actually on the inside and see what actually goes down. You'd be amazed how actually thin those margins actually are. Bubble Man, but it's amazing when I see people on the outside start punching bag on people and stuff like that. It's just unfair unless you've actually done it and thrown these types of things. There's no need for you to comment. Just either go and enjoy and rate the event for exactly what it is, or isn't, and if you don't like it, go throw your event,
Well, but that's the thing.
On people's energy and trying to do something.
People don't want to throw their own event. They want the event that someone else is throwing. It's just like easier to criticize what people are doing. And I spoke at the normal part of the conference yesterday. I spoke on a panel of growers, and we were just kind of talking about that very thing. And it's people are a bit funny. I complain about access. There's 150 new stores that are going to open up in Ontario to sell cannabis, and everyone's upset about it. And they're like, oh, they're going to control it. And because what they tried to do the same thing with booze when booze was legalized, but they can't control it. It's available on every street corner. Restaurants can fucking sell it, for God's sakes. There's bars that are just places where people go and drink booze. And the exact same thing will happen with cannabis. LCB type stores that are government run will never be able to control it. They'll just be one part of it. And I think people are so limited in their ability to see the bigger picture. They only see their slice of their pie that they want. And it's like, well, that's great, but you know, there's a lot of people out there and they require all the slices of the pie to be taken care of evenly. So I think that with the normalization and the acceptance of cannabis as a medicine and a recreational drug in society, all of those things are going to come to fruition. Vapor lounges aren't going to go away. Vapor lounges are the new bars for cannabis. No way. I can promise you. No matter what any government does, it will never go away. We tell them what we want. That's how government works, and everyone should remind themselves of that, that the government knows what's going on. We decide as a society, and then we make it happen. And, you know, it's been slow in Canada, but nonetheless, it's exactly what's been happening. We said we got hemp growing. We said we wanted to grow our own personal licenses. Slowly but surely, we got exemption 56s and MMARs. The MMAR system so badly, they tried to get rid of it. We fought in court and we won under charter breaches. So, in my opinion, fight for what you and the things out there that you might not see as being the way it should be, then make it the way, and take a giant steaming shit on someone else's dream.
Well, we almost had that happen to us this week, actually, in the United States. We had the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer. It was originally the Rohrabacher-Farr amendment was initially pulled, and we thought we were going to be without federal protection anymore, which basically the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer prohibited the federal government from going into any state where there is a legal cannabis market, be it medical or recreational, and could not spend any money. It's the whole reason why I won my case against the federal government, is because after a certain amount of time, the federal prosecutor could not take me into court because they would have to pay him to go into court. And by doing so, they would have violated this amendment that has been passed alongside with the budget amendments. So there was some budget shenanigans this past week where Democrats and Republicans didn't think they were going to have anything go through positively, but for some reason, Pelosi and the Democrats put up a sort of a coup and educated 45, who is the current president, and he capitulated and went along with Democrats. And initially, it made sure that any type of amendments that were controversial amendments were pulled, and therefore it looked like the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer was dead. And it was for about 12 hours until the next business day, when the House and the Senate passed their own amendments of the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer, therefore reaffirming our protections, and passed the House and the Senate, so it's attached to the current budget that is funded through December, and it looks like it will be continually added to each successful budget, because our successful lobbying has got enough Republican senators on board that we have a momentum that we haven't seen before, and this is many years of hard work, and I have to thank a lot of activists that have made this a reality, from 8 years of failure of the Blumenauer-Farr amendment before it actually got passed. And now it went from something that we never thought was a possibility to now becoming a mainstay addition to each budget and budget amendment, which is as best as we can get until federal prohibition changes. This is the best type of protection that we have currently to stave off any type of federal interference into our individual liberty situations that are happening in these individual states via the 10th Amendment. We're allowed to, exist and be our own little democracies, even in the face of, federal law. And of course, that interference would be very costly to the industry, needless to say. And we were all initially in our industry pretty worried for that, 12 to 24 hours until they actually passed this amendment. If we were wondering if this was were we part of a backdoor deal that threw us to the wolves, or to Sessions and the DEA and them coming in. So fortunately, the momentum that we have has been continued, and it seems it's going to continue further, because we're continuing to lobby these Republican and Democratic senators. We're having meet and greets with them constantly. Those that are voted against us in the past, this is how we built the momentum to get them to vote for us consistently. So congratulations to many hardworking people and many staffers in Rohrabacher and Blumenauer for their very hard determination. But this is also a friendly reminder, people, wake the fuck up. We have to still get involved. This is still very fragile. If they want to take us down, this is one way that they could have easily reopened the floodgates. So you are still watching, and if you're a U.S. citizen, you can call your representative and your senator and tell them to stop this federal interference and still make your voice heard. You're an individual citizen, and each voice that calls represents 100 to 1,000, even up to 10,000 people per phone call. So go out to your town hall meetings, talk to your senators and your representatives, make them aware that you are an informed citizen and that you need to be aware of how you feel regarding cannabis and what's going on. You can still get out there and get involved. So, don't complain, get off your ass and do something about it. Contact your representative, your senator, and make them aware of the changes and get involved locally. Again, remember, 2018 is next year. These elections that are happening. If you want to see change, get behind cannabis, supportive candidates out there, because they are out there. And go out there, go support them. Right now, they could use your phone banking. They could use your dollars. They could use your, ability to pitch in any way, shape, or form. You may have a talent. Maybe you can only talk on a phone. Well, go down and phone bank, volunteer, get yourself actively involved. You have a chance to be active in this democracy, to make the future easier for us, because we could have quickly found this week ourselves all back behind the gun again and having the federal government gunning for us. So it is still that fragile. So our voices still have to be active. So don't forget that, people. We love you, but we still can get more involved. Tony, good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, welcome, Tony.
What is going on?
I'm not here.
I was just off pontificating.
Yeah, there was that was actually a conversation. I think you were talking about the same thing, where they were trying to pass something in the budget bill where it was going.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And so we were worried we were possibly as an industry thrown under the bus, but they amended it and it's continued and moving forward. So again, that's a credit to the momentum that we've built, but we still have more momentum to move.
Yeah, but it's just a stopgap measurement until December the 8th. So, that's bullshit. The way that, this government and it's run, is that, again, raising the debt ceiling and doing what they need to do to have all their bills paid. This amendment is just a rider on the appropriations that basically the House Appropriations Committee has to approve the spending of all, yours and I's tax dollar, right? And God knows they're not the best stewards of that money.
Well, until we have a law or something actually changes, this is the best we have. And so we're trying to get behind that. But that's why why I was ranting, is we need people involved so that if enough of these people hear from their constituency regarding this issue, they're going to leave us alone. And we're already affecting some of these Republican and Democratic senators, but there's still many out there. We still have to affect change. So
Until December the 8th, though, right? I mean, it's
well, and then it will be continued on with the same way with the next budget. I mean, this is unfortunately the game the government's playing. And yes, they are punting everything. And it is, I mean, they've got everything from DACA to, the wall and all that. And top of that, tax cuts that they're going to try and all pass all in this time in December. I mean, that's too much to punt. And on top of that, you've got 45 insulting the Republicans daily now. So even those that are his supporters, he's pissing on, no pun intended. And I mean, the cohesiveness is not going away. However, we have enough Republican and Democratic support and continue to maintain that any continuing budget in the future, this continues to get added to and will continue to be added towards. So yes, it is up until December 8th, but there will be a slight time between where they will take the budget and there will be either shut down of the government temporarily, which they won't do in December because it's the holidays. They're not going to do that to their government employees. So it's going to be just another continuation until, remember, the government's fiscal year starts October to October, so we're already emergency funding for the year. So they have to resolve the situation. However, they're still going to use all these political realities, DACA, the wall, etc., as negotiation points, or at least 45 is going to. Sorry, we should get out of politics and get back onto cannabis, but that's sorry, people. That's just the reality of where we are.
I want a separation of church and state.
Sorry, blame me. That's me trying to fill space here.
Great, yeah. I appreciate it. 70s Mama in the chat room saying that her Bubble Man pen is currently ripping her head off. Good to hear, 70s Mama. I'm glad it's.
I like 70s Mom. I like the name of her. She's got a podcast called Sisterhood of the Traveling Plants. I like the name. Very, very, very punny.
That's awesome. Samurai Sam really was kind of the inspiration behind the pen inadvertently, by Ash explaining all about the shitty things that are in behind the pens and how dangerous they can be and how inexpensive and non-sustainable, and tongue out Omicron introduced me to Gary, turned me on to the whole Uptech family. So shout out to Samurai Sam for helping us out big time, because he and I and Gary wouldn't be here where we are with this pen right now without you, brother. So give thanks for your part.
Well, and his knowledge drop has still got to be one of the most epic ones on, Hash Church, where he broke all those down, because that seemed to be the way things were going. And I mean, look what has changed, across the industry. Look how everything is really improved. So it's really made consumers aware of what's actually they're inhaling, and it made them realize what they need to look for in these types of devices. It's why a lot of us have gone back to our either manual or electric way of imbibing, as opposed to now from those frustrations, look what you and Tony have created along with Omicron. You've taken it to the next steps, because now we know what was bad and what's out there, so we know then what we wanted to see. So now you're creating one of those aspects of things that people want to see. You need apparatus that you can utilize and make viscous things like resin through, that you can inhale, that you're on the go. And that didn't exist. So again, kudos.
I still owe you yours, Etienne. I think I just need to drive to you today.
No problem.
Are you in Oakland, or are you?
Yeah, I'm in Oakland. I'm just chilling. We're gonna go for a bike ride, and I gotta go see Ed. Check in with him.
When are you going on that?
Yummy.
Probably after breakfast. Some breakfast after this, and Although it looks to be kind of hot today, so we may ride later in the afternoon. So maybe this afternoon.
All right. Well, let me know when you're done biking. I'm gonna go visit. I think Duchess's garden.
Nice.
She's
I've seen pictures of it. It looks nice.
It looks pretty good, right? And she plays her steel drum to her plants. Did you see that?
Yeah, she did a video of it the other day. It's really cool.
Yeah, I had no idea that she was like a professional steel drum player, but she played like, I don't know, it was like Beethoven or something to show me.
The inventor of that actually teaches at West Virginia University.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he came on a few years ago as a musical teacher, and of course I still have friends that are musicians there in Morgantown because it's still a strong music scene. And so he's doing that, and yeah, that's quite a talent. That's quite a musical sound all unto itself. So kudos there.
What? Because the thing I remember about that was when I was a kid, we used to watch like Sesame Street or there's some show that we watched, and it was like they showed like a real cool, like, I don't know, after kids program or something. It was like they showed like people rolling out a barrel, like a trash can, and they would show them cutting off the bottom. They would show it forming it, and you're like, oh, what is this? And they're like forming the whole steel drum from just throwaway material, repurposing.
That's what it was. They made musical instruments out of the castaway oil containers, and look, now it's a complete musical instrument that's world renowned, but it was all made from throwaway and a need to have a percussion, and it made such a beautiful, unique sound that, it still continues to this day. But she's quite talented as a grower, as well as a hash maker, but as well as a musician. So good job there. Goddess, keep it up.
She's very good at the steel drum.
And I'm a big believer in having music in my gardens. I always had classical or jazz, always 24/7 going on, in my gardens when I was growing, because I always found a good response. I know some people like heavy metal or other types of things, but I've always been, I've always found plants respond to music.
How do I don't know if we ever talked about this before. Have you ever heard of or seen anyone use like, just like you can in your house? Like my house has these little ultrasound pest device that like pushes all, like kind of hits a frequency that we can't hear. Sometimes can be harmful for dogs, but it pushes bugs, out of the room. And we don't really talk about using sound in the gardens, but I've used sound before. I don't know if anyone else has, or if there's any like great device out there that everyone just raves about that maybe should be shared out there,
I had a sound device, tried something like that, but it didn't work for ants. Ants, it did not work for at all. But there's some hardy kind of ants around here as well in the Bay Area.
Well, I think that's the one field that we've got everything else: the UV lighting, the scrubbing, the filtration, air filters, and I think that's still open. Because there are frequencies. If we could test the different types of spider mites and kinds of bugs, and then kind of bring them into more of a study of it, I bet we'd find a frequency that would push them out of the garden.
Right, sonic frequencies that would make them uncomfortable so that they wouldn't want to nest, or lay eggs. That's what you want. Any type of, preventing. But at the same time, you would think that they would, if that type of situation would exist, that would exist on the large scale agricultural, reality. You know what I'm saying? Like large scale NFT systems would. What do you think of that, Sam? Sonic pest control. What are you aware of?
I've never tried it, so I can't really comment. But I insect pheromones to attract them to traps, or either for monitoring or for destroying them. But no, I've never used vibrations of any kind.
And we know plants are affected by vibrations and things like that.
Well,
So.
maybe they're affected by good ones. The insects don't seem to be affected by the. Well, I guess they're either good vibrations or bad vibrations, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, I think let me look this up because I'm pretty sure the one that.
Well,
I had a lot.
If it's the Beach Boys, we know it's good vibrations.
That's funny. So I had these things that I bought on Amazon, these little pest control things. Since there was a lot of spiders actually in the house, and I'm like kind of allergic to them. So people say spiders don't bite, but they love to bite me for whatever reason. But as soon as I put these in each one of the rooms, no more bugs. Hold on, I'll tell you what the frequency is because I was worried about my dog, and they said something about cats.
Do you have any plants at the house?
I do. It said something about it was a certain wave that's here. Let me look. Ultrasonic electronic pest insect repellent device claimed or high frequency sound. Simply plugging one in. Probably won't end your pest woes. Probably have to be really intense, but there's probably a reason why it hadn't been developed before. But it's saying 20 hertz, mice will run. They've got different sounds if you kind of Google it. Some of the stuff out there is bullshit, but there's definitely.
So is it set to frequencies, or do you dial it in depending on your pest?
See, that's the thing. It's just set to. They only sell devices that are set to certain things, like. It's a certain frequency of range, like 20. I'm looking at where that was. Some of it's kind of scammy. Let's see here.
What is the name of the brand, just out of curiosity? Sorry, I thought you may have known off the top of your head.
I think I already forgot it. It was
Stoner.
Hold on.
Yeah, time for a bong rip, people.
Yeah, it's an easy one. Pest reject.
All right.
But on Wikipedia, they kind of call out the bullshit ones, the good ones, or whatever.
Does it work on mother-in-laws?
Allow 2 weeks. It does not work on mother-in-laws. Well, you could change if you could change the frequency. I bet it would. 2 weeks for sound waves to affect pests within established. I just think it's just in its really early stage, but I bet you somebody out there. Yeah, they've got all kinds of gophers. Safe for pets.
If you've got gophers in your house.
But they do throw those. They throw those. I'm sure they throw like, if you've.
You don't see gophers in your house.
They're in the attic?
Our honest review. Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of them out there. This one's a Micron Corporation. That's funny. There's one from a Micron Corporation.
And so these are just direct plug-in-the-wall type of modules?
Yeah, it says takes a few weeks.
To build up the frequency, or for?
I don't know. I put a bunch of them. I put one in every room. Let it all bounce around.
It takes 2 weeks for them to get so fucking tired of the noise
that
they leave.
That's what I think it is. But I think if you started with your garden with a frequency that was really like annoying, it'd be like just a horrible like rock concert that was just no one was in tune, and like they came to a party and they were like, oh, this looks like a good party, and like all horrible combinations of sounds, and like almost like an MRI probably for them, MRI scan.
And how long have you been using it?
A few months. There's a couple of them online. There's some of them that are more expensive. Some of them are cheaper. This one I found, the Guardian. This is for outdoor. This has control for. This has raccoons, deer, squirrels, cats, chipmunks, bats, mice, and rats, and you can actually dial it in on the back. And then you could say predator volume. This is pretty cool.
Oh, so that one you can directly dial into your. Okay, that makes sense. If you got deer or something like that, I got turkeys. So, does that have a turkey setting?
It does not have a turkey setting. This one does have a mother-in-law setting, though.
Ah, well, there you go.
It's a lower frequency. It's more like drum and bass.
Really low.
Play some drum and bass, your mother-in-law will go away. Crank on bass nectar at 5 in the morning.
That's great.
She'll be running for the door. So, yeah, serious shit going on with this hurricane, though. Everyone that's in Florida, my prayers and thoughts out to you. My family is there, mother, dad, brother, everyone in Miami and Broward. I haven't turned on the TV this morning, but I was watching it till like 2 in the morning.
I send my best, man. I don't miss that. You grew up with that, right?
Yep. I was in New Orleans, Florida. I was actually in Kansas, so I have had tornadoes, hurricanes, floods. I've got, I would say, probably PTSD from storms. But I don't know. It's always, I always have this fear now that I thought I was okay from earthquakes where I'm at. And then I realized like I'm like right on a fault line. I'm like, whoa, okay. And that's the only thing I haven't experienced yet. I've actually seen a volcano too erupting.
It's very humbling. The first time I remember, it was the first time I actually did speed, and yeah, it was back in 1992, and yeah, I was literally everybody left the house, and I was playing my bass, and then the earth just gave a nice big old jolt, and I never felt so small or minuscule. But I can't look. Honestly, I spent my whole life growing up and dealing with hurricanes. I would rather be out here and deal with an earthquake any day than to deal with having to board up the windows and hunker down and loss of signal and all that. Deal with this, dealing with refrigerators and all that shit you have to deal with when your shit gets flooded. And
Earthquakes can be bad though. I mean, you saw in Mexico, man. That was 8.1. You study the Richter scale. Most people don't realize like every time it goes from like a 5 to a 6 or a 6 to a 7, it's not just one unit. It's a multitude of things that, I mean, a difference between like a 7 and an 8 is like 50, I don't know, 50 nuclear bombs or something. The size of, it would be like 50 nuclear bombs between the two digits or something.
Oh, and the amount, yeah, because the amount of shifting that's happening, and I mean, look at the last huge one that was here, the Loma Prieta one. I mean, it shifted things by feet. So, I mean, an 8.1 would definitely move things by yards.
Yeah, 8.1 serious. There's like, so anyone out in Mexico, again, thoughts and prayers with you. Got people in Puerto Rico, they said that they just lost some power, but they were okay. Just crazy out there right now. There's a lot of storms, a lot of.
It's how extreme they are
stuff.
more than anything,
Yeah, there's that. Back in the day, I watched this guy, Greg something. They took him off of YouTube, but he used to be with NASA. He's like a, forget what his background was as a scientist, but I don't know if you've ever talked about net zero before, like when the planet gets to net zero.
No, we haven't.
Have you ever heard of that before?
I've heard of it. You might want to explain it to. What was that, Bob?
I don't know what he said. But essentially what happens is our north and south poles, they flip. And this is evident on the where our plates touch, and on the bottom of the ocean you see lines that go this way and then they go this way. And it's 3,600 years or so. I don't know, there's an average in there where it happens. Einstein says that our planet goes through kind of a bigger shift every 86,000 years. That doesn't mean our planet like goes off or anything. It's just the way that our magnetics work and our north and south work. But there's a point that we get to that's like a net zero when that happens. All kinds of like different theories have spawned off from that, of what happens. Does the ice age happen when the north and when we hit a net zero point, and we cycle through as a planet every so often, and we're just kind of riding it like a wave, and depends if we're good or bad, we influence that ride differently. But there is a resonant frequency of things that exist in all things, and the planet has one. And I think it was Einstein that was laughed at when he first talked about it, but the planet has a pulse frequency or a resonant frequency. And so our frequency, if you look at like our planet as a grouping of a bunch of different tiny little marbles that makes up a sphere, and you think of it as a vibration, think of those things being held together by a gravitational pull, and our rotation and our pull with the star. All this is very important to keep these little marbles together. But there's a frequency, a resonant frequency. There's a vibration, just like that's why they use quartz for like turntables and for watches, because once you put a frequency or vibration on it, it holds it perpetually like that. Very good at holding and responding to frequencies. And it's a neutral. Quartz is neutral, so it's one of the only elements that's actually neutral. But everything has these tones and frequencies. That's why people talk about chakras and opening them with tuning forks or bowls, Thai bowls. Those sound effects kind of can help tune. You can tune crystals as well and stones. People do it all the time. And so there's that frequency that's out there, and our planet is said to be speeding up since we've been monitoring it, which kind of makes sense. So if you're going through a north and south flip and you're getting to a net zero point, that vibration would be more and more intense. You follow me? And so then that's what would lead to that, and contributing to like our saline count in the water, the greenhouse gases, different things that affect the planet on a whole. Fukushima dumping nuclear waste into our ocean, things like that doesn't go away. Those things will have an influence on storms as well. So you would see more earthquakes, you would see more storms, you would see more activity than maybe you would see in the last 100, 200 years that's been documented. Does that make any sense? So I think we as humans and we contribute to that change in these experiences. But I also do think that it happens naturally, and it occurs in cycles, and kind of how our planet recycles, kind of like a forest burns down, and
Without a doubt, it actually, the poles are going to switch. When I was in the military, wherever we were in the world, we always had to declinate our compasses to, true north. And we were taught in there that there's a kind of a shifting that's happening, that was already happening back when I was in the military in the 90s, in the 80s and the 90s, that showed that there's, already a degree change due to the poles, and it was continuing, and it only is going to get more extreme until the actual poles flip. So there's no doubt about it, it's going to happen. The thing is it should have already happened already by those calculations. So either we're about to go through a polar flip, or it's currently happening as we speak.
Yeah, that's also a great point, because think about all of the travelers that set sail, and all the devices that existed that allow you to see true north. You know,
well, birds
and
have
find-
iron. Birds have iron, a sliver of iron in their beaks that helps them find true north as well. So it would affect migrations. Yeah, they found that out through biology. Is that's why they're able to find north and south so well. Is they actually have a bit of iron in their beak that points them, magnetically in the right direction.
It's very
Dinosaurs, they've kind of evolved on us.
So, all right. It looks like we're losing most of the people here, but I did want to say one thing, that I'm really happy to see the industry, at least on the solventless side, starting to push the sauces and the THCA. I think it's an important movement that's going on. It's kind of why the whole idea why Bubbleman and I were talking about creating these types of tanks, because when you get something saucy, you can't really put it in a jar. You can't put it. It's like it's hard to keep it in a place. So the tank itself is something that I think is good. Just as if you're buying them as an empty, you just buy an empty kit, and you press rosin at home. You can double press that rosin and have THCA and have your sauce. That sauce is unbelievable in these little tanks. Like really good. And you got to put them in something. So it's just nice to have the options now to mix that, and seeing people going for it. Because I remember a year or 2 years ago, people still just hate on rosin. It's like, man, I don't know. It's come a long way.
Well, it's a natural progression of things. They're going to adapt, or somebody's going to find something that will. So it's good to see that there's more options out there for people and patients, because they read about it, now they need to have access.
Yeah, and I think that it always comes back down to the grower and the genetics. It's like you can't just fabricate really good product. It's just the person doing the extraction or separation. Sure, it's about it's a good 40% or so. But once you have the tools and the knowledge, every time, if you run a lot of stuff, it comes down to, ooh, what is that? That's something new. That's a new flavor. That's a new head structure. Or why did that yield so much more? Or why is that all clear? Just different unique characteristics. I've always found it interesting when, we wash resin and then it gets freeze dried and it all looks beaming white. And we've got different micron runs. You'll get like first run, second run, third run, fourth run. But even in the first or second runs, between the 73, 90, 120, 45, when you go to press them, you get different shades, different colors every time. Same exact, you make a variation, you make a change in the way you would press based on, if it's a 3, a 4, or 5 star type of hash going in before it gets pressed. But even with those slight adjustments, you're just making those adjustments, whether it's pressure or just a few degrees or things like that, based on the melt, because you don't want to blow out. But ultimately, if you're washing and pressing, you'll see all kinds of variations. It's really interesting. Sometimes you see like a second run 73 very small, and then the third run really big, and the first one and the third run is so much better than the second, even when you go to press it. I just find it fascinating. It's like when Frenchie was talking to me one time about a lemon tree. If you've got this big lemon tree, you go up to it, you shake it, and the fruit falls down, and you grab the fruit and you all eat off of it. And you go up to it again and you shake it again, and more fruit comes off. And so it's just interesting how the plant, when you look at it on a small level, the different trichomes, how they're developing, an indoor versus an outdoor. Things that I've seen those heads don't really extend out in the winter cycles. So you get a lot of, so if your plant tested, 15% THC, those heads aren't extended all the way out. You get a lot of them by the surface. Same thing with CBD flowers. So it doesn't wash very well. Your first light depth gets better, but then full season, it seems like the heads fully extend, and you're able to get more of the resin in its full melt capacity than you were in the wintertime, even though it's still there. So it's kind of like the sun itself, and the intensity of the sun itself allows for the secretion and to push up higher into its head, into its sac. And if the sun's not there, the intensity is not there, it doesn't quite push up. It's not secreting up. And it kind of has more of an oil at its surface instead of a little bit away from it. But with indoor, there's advantages to indoor if you're looking at full malt. Fresh frozen indoor, if you had a very even canopy of the same variety, you've been growing it a while under a certain intensity of light, and you're going to grow it to an exact date, you tend to see very uniform head structure and that distance from the plant. So if you tested something that was 25%, 20% indoor, and you're like, oh, we got a 14% yield, of that 14% yield, you'll get a good 30% plus of full melt, where you might have a big wide gap of varieties if it was an outdoor winter cycle, So there's places for it all.
Well, and that's with the reality of the seasons, in farming. You have to deal with the those changes that are going to happen depending on which season you're growing, as well as which one you're processing.
How many people are in the chat? Do you know?
About 472.
Well, respect to the 472. It's just you and I bullshitting and talking.
Oh, Sam's listening. Bubbleman's having some technical difficulties.
473.
So let's get the chat involved for a second. What's everybody in chat smoking on? This is always so fun to watch happen. What are you smoking on, people? What are you toking on?
What do you got?
The other thing that's interesting is to ask the chat, from which country are you chatting from? Because it's interesting to see how widespread we are.
Yeah, shout out your country or your area and what you're smoking on. That is interesting to see.
There you go.
For me, it's Amsterdam.
I've always wanted to figure out how you guys look at this chat. You must have to open it up on YouTube, huh?
Yeah, you open it up on YouTube and you can watch it live. So, okay, there we go. We got people from all around India, UK, wow, Netherlands, Trump land.
Trump land.
Come on, put your neck what you're smoking with your region, people. Let's see where we
now I could see myself. Great.
Cali, UK. Yeah, just make sure to turn your sound down, and then you'll see.
Oh, there's the chat.
Yeah, see it going on. See all the
sweet
Montana.
All these people are shouting out quick.
Yeah, it moves fast when you ask. South Africa and cheese. Nice. Go South Africa. Kalamazoo, Michigan. USA Girl Scout cookies. Kabul, Afghanistan. Nice. Wow. Go Afghanistan. Love your hash. Pink Kush, Ontario. Blueberry Hybrid, America. Pink Kush, by the way.
Afghan Pink Kush, yeah.
Kathmandu.
Kabul, Maine.
Scotland homegrown. GG4. Nice. Gorilla Glue 4. Nice. Very nice. Seattle. Nice. Thai weed in England. Washington State.
Acapulco Gold
in BC. What?
Yeah. Blueberry Starfighter in Connecticut. That's pretty cool. I said Trump land.
Headband in the 707. Yeah.
Bubble. Stinky Wink.
Iowa.
Wi-Fi OG.
No, nobody from
XJ13
Japan,
Ontario.
Cambodia? Or how about the Philippines?
Australia.
Exodus Cheese in South Africa.
Scotland.
Gelato.
Yeah, we got anybody over in the Indonesia, Thai area?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
All right, cool. My computer's got 6% left, and I've got a cup here, so I was thinking of maybe winding it down. If you guys wanted to, if you had anything else to say today on today's Hash Church.
It's all good. We were just enjoying everybody telling us where they are and what they're smoking on. So
I'm going to end it with a power dab just for that then. I'm going to just
power dabs.
add everything to it. It's one of those days.
I did a power dab yesterday with my bike, and we put in the Swiss Tsunami, and then I added this beautiful dry sift that one of the dudes that he gave me some really nice dry sift, and he gave me some really nice rosin. I wanted to give him a shout out for that kind gift, and man, the rip fucking good.
I'm going to do some California smoothie. I'm doing some orange cookies sauce. Some nice solventless orange cookie sauce with left of it.
Awesome.
I think I'm going to add some CBC, CBN. Let's get it. I'm going to get everything in this thing.
All right. Next week is our 3-year anniversary church, so definitely hoping on having people.
Ooh.
I'm going to invite the Pope. I'm going to invite the Pope so the Pope can blow some hash to the Vatican.
Wouldn't he be blowing
hash towards Robert Park
at the Vatican?
Or maybe some smoke.
There you go.
This is getting crazy.
There you go. All right. Well, let me know when the dab's ready, Tony. We're gonna end this V.
Yeah, this is just straight sauces after sauce. This is a strawberry banana goo hash full melt sauce. Let's see here. Quite a few things. Here's some Pharmacy Girl Scout cookies. Some sauce here. Let's look at the very bottom. Gonna have to add some lemon tree CBD to it too. Some of these things are made.
Ooh, that's pretty. That's a nice color.
You can see it on the outside. All right. Well, I have THCA, malt sauces, CBD. This is a 90% CBD, 5%. This is this lemon tree on here. So I've got like CBC, CBD, CBN, THC, A. I've got hash rosins. I've got sauces.
And
let's do this.
Tony, your CBC, what purity level is?
It was so that was also in this last oil that tested like 45% CBN and like 31% CBC. God damn.
All right, well, I'll take this time to say shout out for my sports teams, go Saints and go Barcelona, playing Juve on Tuesday. So let's get this Champion League going. Whoop, whoop.
All right, let's do this. Oh.
Much love, Bubble Man. Thank you very much. I will miss you next week. At the same time, I'll see you the week after. So happy 3-year anniversary.
Thanks for holding it down so often for us, Etienne, Skunkman, Sam, and Tony V with the Power Dab. Thanks everyone for watching Hash Church, and we'll see you next week for episode 156.